Welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with friends, get your gaming goodness every Monday. My name is Dylan Blight. Joining me on the couch this week, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, we're just mere weeks away from next gen consoles, and exclusive, we did not get sent any.
No. Exclusive. Also here, Kieran Martin.
You know what the upside is of us not getting sent anything is I don't have to watch Dylan do an unboxing.
Oh,
do you think you won't do an
count
unboxing?
on that. Don't count on
No,
that.
No, but I don't have to do it currently. I can avoid it because I'll be like, I've already unboxed my consoles myself. I don't need to watch Dylan shred up a box and horribly mismanage an unboxing.
So, Arcade Couch episode 102 exclusive. Not 100% sure if I'll bother doing an unboxing, but I'll put it this way. If I do bother doing any sort of unboxing, it'll be worth
A Dylan Blight unboxing.
It won't be. Anybody who cares about packaging or anything is like...
Because there's already a million unboxings, obviously, at this stage.
But none like this.
But yeah, if I was going to do one, it would definitely have to be a very
Unique.
Dylan unboxing. But that's fine. That's what makes it worth it.
Just you'd have one of these where he like grabs something out and just tosses it to the side or something where he just kind of it's one of those.
I've got some ideas. Some of them are like really fucking outlandish, and I don't know. I'm like, that's a lot of time just making a meme when I could be like playing with the console instead of like filming a horrible video. But yeah, so talking about next gen, let's do our sort of recurring at the moment next gen check-in segment. Obviously, over the past week and a half-ish, you've got all these unboxing videos, so be it your PS5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S. You've got some gameplay stuff. You've got some videos of people like showing off the controller for the Xbox, showing off the controller for the DualSense controller. Has anything stood out to anyone? Like, are you watching this stuff? Are you engaging in this stuff? Are you enjoying this stuff? Have you watched any content creator or media's video that's like stood out to you that got you a bit more excited, or are you just kind of ignoring it? What are we doing?
I've personally flicked through stuff. Like I've kind of looked through content and flicked through stuff, and like earlier today I had a quick skim through of Kind of Funny's first impressions on Astrobots, like the free game you get with the PlayStation 5.
Astro's Playroom.
Because Playroom, that's the one. And look, there's part of me that enjoys watching it. Part of me's like, no, I want to save this experience for myself. And then there's the other part of me that's like, fuck you guys with your fucking connections and your success, meaning that you get these early, and where I just get.
So, just to have a side tangent, me and Ash were having like a sort of inside baseball conversation about this the other day. But I'll open the question to you, Kieran. So, like, I was saying that all of us, I think, would be seeing more people on our social media timelines doing unboxings and showing off consoles solely because, especially compared to if he was on Twitter or Facebook when the PS4 or Xbox One came out, solely because I think our circles are a lot more content creator / media based now. And it's not that there's more people getting them, although there may be a few more getting them. I think it's primarily a cause of just our circles are that. Like, even
I think with Xboxes, I will say Xboxes there seems to be more people with hands on for Xboxes in terms of like not just people that are reviewing games and talking about games, but just like Twitch streamers that are getting their hands on a console, which is for me is kind of a weird thing because it's like what are they going to actually be able to do with this console until launch? Like they're not like they're going to be making, other than an unboxing, unless they've got a YouTube channel that they run. They're not. There's a couple people where I'm like Bruce Green, formerly of Funhouse, got one the other day, and I was like, what? Why? Well, like not why as in like I understand why he got it, but what's he going to do with it? Yeah,
they could stream off of them.
Are they allowed to at the moment?
Well, we don't know. They could be. Why send to streamers if they're not allowed to stream?
Compared to all the embargoed stuff at the moment, it doesn't sound like there's full.
There's still another week and a half to put content out. No, 1 week. Just 1 week.
I mean, this comes out Monday, so yeah, it's like a week and.
So in the next week, we could get a ton of streams.
For me personally, just for them, it's like That's the thing where I don't know and I haven't looked into. Are they actually able to stream off the devices yet?
I don't think they are as of recording.
I don't believe so. I haven't, because I would have thought as well. I would have thought they would have streamed off it. Like I would have seen more streams off.
But
and I know.
I think Xbox is like doing a very much send these consoles to a million people, sort of own the media stream of like this console release. Because I even saw someone on my Twitter, I can't remember who it was, but I did see someone tweet earlier today that they thought they had seen nothing but people with Xboxes and they hadn't seen a single person with PlayStation. Of course, I could have replied if I wanted to be that guy and say like, people have PlayStations, you just haven't seen them. But I think the fact that they were saying they'd seen nothing but people with Xboxes says something about like the ratio of people getting sent Xboxes to PlayStations. Yeah,
which is understandable, and you know, I think I haven't heard anything about the Xbox embargo, but it's like the embargo for PlayStation seemed to be very kind of
in depth,
structured and scheduled and in depth. With you can start talking about this thing here, like in Kind of Funny's the Playroom first impressions I watched today. They could only show one section of the game, and they could only talk about the DualSense in terms of what they were doing in the game and stuff. Like it was very restrictive about what actually they could talk about and stuff for the game. Or for the console in general. So it's interesting that, and I guess as we discussed many times, it's Microsoft's it's the ball's in Microsoft's court at the start of this generation to kind of close that gap that was formed by last generation consoles. So they are having to put in a bit more effort to do things, and they are having to get their console in more people's hands.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is. It's getting the console in as many people's hands as possible. And then making it when they're able to, the platform they're streaming from. Preferably. Yeah.
So. Yeah. And then on top of that, making a fridge. Good job, Microsoft. Being a part of meme culture and shitposting culture and making fridges out of it. So whoever wins that fridge, that'll look pretty
cool. Look forward to PS5 announcing their line of routers next week.
No, but I think... the thing is, I'm getting more and more excited as the days go. Like with today being my last day of work before kind of time of off being, mainly about the new consoles. It's really exciting, and I don't think, honestly, just because of how, for me personally, and I think for a lot of people, how much 2020 is dragged. It hasn't clicked until the last maybe day or two that we are so close to getting consoles because time just seems to drag and go so fucking slowly at the moment. So. It's interesting where it's fun where we got Watch Dogs Legion coming out, and even if it wasn't for consoles being around the corner, probably would have bought Watch Dogs Legion this week and played it. But I'm just kind of saving a lot of those experiences for next generation consoles because my brain's kind of like, I don't really feel like playing anything. Like I played a bit of Pyre, and that's the last thing I've really played on my PlayStation. It's just a case of just kind of in limbo waiting for consoles now.
Yeah. It's that time, I feel, where a lot of people are probably feeling the same. Especially as we hit this week, like literally the week before, it's like, you don't want to start a new game, potentially. Like it's just...
Well, that's the thing, where the next week off, a part of me is like, do I try and tackle Horizon finally? Do I try and actually get through Horizon? And then part of me is like, nah, you may as well just play it on PlayStation 5 at some point, right? Like,
might run better.
Delayed,
it's probably got that game boost.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a case of there's no point me starting things. May as well just play Overwatch for the entire time. Oh no.
Ash, have you been watching any videos? Or?
Yeah, I've checked out like a couple of different unboxings and that kind of stuff. I know, just to get even greater idea of how to scale it is, I guess, how big it is, and everybody's saying they're big.
It doesn't look as big as people are making it out to be, though.
What, the Xbox or the PS5? I think the PS5, PlayStation. The PlayStation looks fucking huge. Like, it's
really? It's just not. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm used to.
Maybe you're just watching very big people, so just
possibly with big hands.
Yeah, so it looks smaller. Plus, it's all perspective. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it. It's interesting to see how little there is of the Xbox Series S, though. Like, I don't think I've seen an unboxing. Just in general,
I've seen unboxing. And I've seen people like point out I saw press start. Shannon was tweeting pictures today of it like next to his monitor and saying it's so slim and tiny that he could literally just slide it behind his monitor on his desk or whatever. And he had some pictures of that up. So that thing is small.
That thing is a very first world thing, but I think the Xbox Series X is like a great streaming console. Like,
it's a great second room console, which is probably what it's being designed to basically be.
Like even just to have like on a desk.
Cloud box if xCloud actually works.
I've only watched like one or two. Like I don't know why I would need to watch multiple.
Too much.
It's like
as soon as you've seen somebody open a box once, you've seen everybody.
Because everyone's basically doing the same thing, which is like, oh, look at this. It's the same. Like, look, here's a controller,
this is my first time with the DualSense. Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It's interesting to see the commentary around it, especially for a lot of those guys who have been in the industry for a long time and covered previous console launches. That this is the first time they've seen it in person. They've held
because no E3, no events,
no nothing. So it's crazy in that regard.
All right, so let's actually get into some stuff here. So, I want to jump straight into, of course, the biggest news of the week and just kind of get that out of the way instead of waiting until later in the show. So, obviously, Cyberpunk 2077 was delayed again.
What? Are we back in January?
So Eurogamer writes,
Are we back in March?
Cyberpunk 2077 was delayed once again yesterday, and although the game's release was only pushed back by 21 days, it seems this was enough to stir up some nasty corners of the internet. Senior game designer, I can never say this dude's name, but Onze Zalzaski took to Twitter to report that members of the dev team had received death threats in response to news and reminded angry fans that this was not acceptable behavior, saying, tweeting, I understand you feeling angry, disappointed, and want to voice your opinion about it. However, sending death threats to developers is absolutely unacceptable and just wrong. We are people just like you. The backlash is not only related to the delay itself, but from a perception CD Projekt Red lied about staying on schedule, with many pointing to a specific tweet from Cyberpunk 2077 account on the 26th of October, promising no further delays. CD Projekt Red staff member Fabian Mario Dola addressed this in reply to Zalewski's tweet, explaining that the social media manager would not have known about the delay, seemingly confirming a report CD Projekt Red staff heard the news at the same time as everyone else did. So this, like, sort of correlating a bunch of stories I've read, but basically, like, Jason Schreier wrote up a Bloomberg report, obviously, when the delay happened.
Obviously.
And said, I mean, this is...
Obviously. If it's...
What? I mean, that's what he covers. He covers...
That's his job.
He doesn't cover, like... He doesn't write news stories. Call of Duty's latest game trailers here. He writes
Maybe
about...
he should.
Industry.
Take a break. I mean,
that's not Bloomberg. That's not what Bloomberg writes about. You put me fucking off. What was fucking saying? He wrote. So he had people tell him that when CD Projekt Red tweeted out saying that the game would be delayed, at the exact same time that tweet went out, there was an internal email sent out that he got a hold of to everyone inside CD Projekt Red that said, "Hey, we're delaying the game again," and that is why the person the day before who runs a social media channel was obviously replying to someone saying no delays, because as far as they knew at that time, the game had gone gold. Everything was fine. They had no idea the game was going to be delayed. So obviously, I'm just going to pinpoint this all to correlate under one thing here that I'm not going to spend much time on, but I'll say again, obviously, last time we talked about this, it was 6 days crunch, and I don't think anyone needs to point out the obvious that it is not 6 days crunch. It has now been turned into, obviously, a month, a bit over a month of crunch by the time all this period's up, if the game releases on time, which fucking please God at this point, just let them go home for Christmas. But that, the whole Cyberpunk, the crunch stuff, which last time I talked about, saying that's poor management, crunch is a cause of poor management. I think the fact that the social media person was like, our game's gold, we're good to go, and then a memo sent out at the same time a tweet sends out, that to me, again, I'm just like, I don't like the way that's managed, I guess. Like, why are the staff finding out at the same time that the public's finding out? I find that weird, but whatever. I get to bring it back to the other thing, to reiterate, so I'm not just saying like CD Projekt Red's management's pretty poor. Obviously, don't send death threats to people anyone, especially because I find it quite weird because I've seen people who, if you look on their Twitter profiles, they're like, yeah, fuck crunch and all this stuff, but then they're also like, well, fuck them. I'm like, if you're saying no crunch, that's like pro developer for their safety, so you shouldn't be sending deference. I don't know. Anyway, Cyberpunk's delayed. What are you gonna do? Anyone have any thoughts? Does that dog have thoughts or?
Harley, do you have any thoughts
on the delay of Cyberpunk 27? Okay. Yeah.
He thinks it's rough.
Wow.
That was fucking lame. That was so lame.
What up, Simon?
I guess the other thing to follow this on with was that, like, PC Gamer had a follow-up story saying that so Kaczynski later said the game is ready for the PC and runs great on next-gen consoles and could be shipped on the scheduled date on those platforms. However, even though the game has been certified on the current gens by both Sony and Microsoft, some final optimization process for such a massive and complex game requires a bit of additional time. So basically, the game is, if you read between the lines, running like shit on the PS4 and Xbox One, and they're trying to fix that so it can launch on everything at the same time.
Which is super interesting considering the specs for the PC version were kind of like very lower mid-tier kind of specs. Like, it wasn't even anything
so they're going to run it shit at that. Those specs is what.
No, but even then, normally, even if normally for it's going to run like shit, it's still normally like for newer games and these kind of larger games, their specs are still kind of high mid-range PC kind of specs. They're not really like Cyberpunk pretty much came out with their PC stuff and were like, hey, this is going to run out a potato. Good luck. Like, it's interesting. I will say, and I've been in defense for CD Projekt Red in past discussions and debates about crunch. They've fucking completely dropped the ball now. Like, I can't. There was another. I don't know if you saw it, but there was another one of their directors, or I can't remember exactly who, but Jason Stride.
It was the same guy. Was it the one where he did the interview where he's like, "Look, like no one's even crunching that bad. Not bad." And then the next day he sent out an email company-wide to apologize to everyone. Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is all right. This is fucked up. But yeah, just get it out. Just get it over with. Just yeah.
I don't know. I think this is a better time slot for Cyberpunk probably.
Oh,
get it a little bit further away from the launch. And all the launch games, as well as Call of Duty and Valhalla and Yakuza.
That's a
and
very.
all the other stuff.
I mean, that's looking for silver linings for gamers because of like, I have less things to worry about playing. Cyberpunk was people who were going to play Cyberpunk were going to play it instead of Assassin's Creed. There was no competition.
From my personal, it was, hey, new consoles are really cool, but the moment Cyberpunk comes out, I probably am not going to really touch it for a couple weeks.
I think that's everyone.
Yeah, I feel like that's just how it is, sadly. Well, everybody who's really interested in Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Actually.
No, I mean, now it's more likely I'll probably play it at release, seeing as it'll come out December 10th, and it's probably going to be more, probably better than Immortal Phoenix. Phoenix Writing Immortal, whatever it's called.
I laughed. It made me laugh that there was the game Path of Exile was supposed to have quite a big update come out that day. They immediately were like, "Nah, fuck that, I'm out."
That's one rare case where you can act, because everyone jokes about like games dodging one another, but that's like one case where the developer straight up said, "Yeah, we're peace," which is weird, I think, because you wouldn't think that game would really have, I don't know, like how much correlation crossover is there between people that were excited for Path of Exile's latest update in Cyberpunk, but I guess
probably
enough.
There's still probably enough.
Yeah.
There's still enough, and I think looking back at history, we kind of wish some games did that. I know I personally certainly wish Rise of Tomb Raider did that back when Fallout 4 came out on the same day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you guys think CD Projekt Red's like burnt all their goodwill at this point?
Well, no. Here's the interesting thing, right? So, CD Projekt Red should, I think, justify like 'cause in my eyes, obviously, I have some like whenever they get into production for their next game, I'm going to have some sort of like, I hope you've got that management in fixed up and you're not going to like you've planned for this.
No
game better.
release dates ever.
No, like I hope it'll just be like I hope you've planned for the development of this game better than you obviously planned for the development of Cyberpunk. That's how I'm going to be looking at the next game. But the thing is that what people are angry about, if you look in Twitter, people aren't angry about crunch or people having to work extra hours. No. They're angry that they're not getting the game on time. And I've seen many gamers write on Twitter, that's it. Like I even had a friend, a friend of mine. I saw posts about this on Facebook, and someone he's friends with, who I'm not friends with, like commented on his stats, and it was like, "Man, I used to have so much faith in CD Projekt Red, but after this delay, I just don't think I can trust them anymore." Like he's upset that the game's delayed because they keep delaying the game on him, and he doesn't get to play it on time.
Well, they've burnt both sides of it. The people who were fine with the crunch but wanted the game, and the people who were not happy with crunch. They've burned both of them.
Gamers are fucking stupid. Like even just the death threat stuff is it goes without saying the death threat stuff is fucking not on.
Don't send death threats to anyone.
There needs to be a better way to stop that from happening, and I know it's a very online problem, but there needs to find a better way of dealing with that. But also at the same time, it goes with like be supportive of developers. Be fucking. Don't get angry because your game is delayed. Like, just get over it. It's a game. You can move. Like, we were talking before the show. You can move annual leave. You can fucking change around what you're doing a little bit. Like, it's a fucking game at the end of the day. There are far more important things in this world than a game. And I'm sorry if this is the most important thing for you. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry about where your life is right now.
I've seen so many people be like, man, I had annual leave. They've really fucked me. Like, why would they fuck me? Why they would fuck me on this is beyond me. I just... absolutely disgusting, yeah. I don't know, it's interesting because, kind of to a point of what Ash is saying. I feel like a year ago, CD Projekt Red was the gamers held them on a pedestal because everyone loved The Witcher. They gave out all that 3 DLC for The Witcher. They released 2 great expansions that, no microtransactions. Like, The Witcher was kind of held as this, like, this is a video game. This is how we want our video games made with, like, great content and whatever else. And then, obviously, over the past 2 years, I guess, that's when the majority of the crunch reports started coming. So certain sectors of people were like, well, that's a bit shady. What the fuck's going on? And then, obviously, now the gamers have just spat it because of the game getting delayed. But the funniest thing to me is that, like, me coming on criticizing the crunch stuff, I was still never ever a state of like burn them by the pitchforks. It was more of just like critiquing the level I feel like they would deservedly should be critiqued for that sort of stuff.
This comes you can even look at this one as this delay is actually been caused by the other delays. Because it sounds like they've had to kind of be forced to make sure that there is some kind of work been done for the Xbox, like the Series X version and the PS5 version. Like they're like it seems to be that they've kind of, because they've now been moved into this time slot where they are right around where consoles are being released. They've just added more and more to their workload to kind of put their game out.
Yeah.
Whereas
if they had launched initially, they would have been well before everything.
Yeah. If they had launched in March, they probably had a lot less to try and worry about.
Yeah.
And if that's, I would have still respected, but I don't think the vast gaming community would have respected it. I would have respected it if they took a hard stance as soon as they delayed and said, hey, even though we're delaying this, as soon as the consoles got announced for a date and stuff for the new consoles, still come out and say, hey, we're not going to do anything about those until we get this game.
When was the original release date? Like middle of the year or whatever, wasn't it?
It was
March. Like March, yeah.
Yeah.
March was supposed to be Cyberpunk month.
And then they delayed it.
March was
they delayed it to like August or something, didn't they? And then it went from there.
No, they delayed it all the way to November.
Okay. So when they delayed it,
maybe it was to August. Maybe it was to.
I feel like it's moved twice from memory.
It's moved. Yeah, it feels like it's moved.
It
twice
feels like
already.
one of these delays, or even the first one from the start of the year, should have recognized the amount of work necessary, and then they should have just delayed it a full 12 months to allow time for the game to get done without the need to rush and overwork staff and being able to actually just comfortably hit a release date instead of worrying about rushing to reach a release date, I guess. Yeah. Did you find the answer to that? Or?
At E3 2019, a third set trailer set it up for 16th of April 2020. This was first delayed to 17th of September back in January, then to the 19th of November in June, and then finally the 10th of December.
So 4 delays so far, right? Yeah.
3 delays, yeah.
3, okay.
On top of the 7-year cycle, the development cycle.
Yeah.
8 years.
Which, yeah, and of course we don't know if they ever had a like inside developer like original release date they were aiming to hit that we just never heard about. But then before they announced it, so
again, a studio that was doing a third-person action RPG, doing a first-person shooter effectively. There's going to be some issues along the way. I feel like the long development cycle is like further caused the desire for this to come out.
What?
So, yeah.
My final thing on this is that sure, again, this is definitely me talking in my ass statement, but I'll say it anyway. Knowing nothing about game development, very little, but you would have thought that maybe they would have been aware of the issues they were having for getting it to run well on PS4 and Xbox One. Like they didn't just come across that last week, you know what I mean? So, and to the degree, like if they had have known, if this was an issue they knew was going to be a big problem to overcome, I feel like they nearly should have just never announced the game for current gen consoles and just like made it a next gen game.
The thing is, we don't know. Once again, we don't know what those delays have. Maybe somebody has got ambitious and been like, "Hey, we're being pushed out. Let's push this game a bit harder." Which they shouldn't. As we've previously talked about, it should be, we're stretching this out. We're doing the same amount of work in this period of time. We're not doing extra.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. I think clearly they've pushed it harder, and pushing it harder to maybe jump up to those next gen consoles has pushed it so it's now not reaching. It's not.
Well, I mean, the
good
thing
on
is,
those other
like
ones.
when they say it works well on PS5 and works well on Xbox Series X, that is a simple the current gen version running backwards compatibility with the access to new hardware. That's not the actual next gen versions, which they said are supposed to come sometime in 2021. This is simply those versions running on the new consoles. So
maybe we don't know, but maybe they have tried to push too hard for those things, where they're like, "Oh, we can work even harder for this stuff."
Yeah. I can definitely feel it because I was shout outs. I was talking to Zach from Well Played like before all this happened, and I even said to him before all this happened, I was like, "Man, this game's going to run like absolute shit on the current gen consoles," and then it got delayed and this stuff comes out. Like, oh, there you go. Because I was kind of expecting the game to come out and be like, PC runs great. If you run it on your PS5, your Series X runs great. But I was already like, how is this going to run on? Maybe my PS4 Pro, it's okay, but like a base PS4, it'll fucking blow up, and a base Xbox One, it'll blow up. Like maybe on the higher end consoles.
I don't know.
Yeah,
probably
1X?
take off from the fan going so powerful.
Yeah, I definitely like original PlayStations and original Xbox Ones. Fuck that.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I do not want to even see those kind of stuff.
All right, let's get into a couple of reviews I put up during the week. So, first one I want to dive into is I nearly said Man and Medan, but no, that's not. It's a sequel. It's a follow-on. So, Dark Pictures Anthology Little Hope. So, last year they put out, Supermassive Games put out the Dark Pictures Man of Medan, and now they've changed the title, and now it includes the Dark Pictures Anthology in the title, and it's called Little Hope. Anyway, it's another horror interactive movie game, whatever you want to call these types of things. Obviously, if you played Until Dawn back on the PS4 a couple of years ago and you love that, Man of Medan was just more of that, but in a small experience, and Little Hope's more of that, just in the same sort of smaller experience. I like what they're doing with these games. My key thing for this one is whenever I've watched any horror anthology movie, TV show, read a horror anthology book. There's always some good stories. There's always a couple duds. And this one I think is a little bit of a dud. So I gave it a 6 in my review. And I just think it's mainly because the characters just simply aren't very interesting. And the environments that you walk through in this game, by no means of fault of anything other than the way the game's set up, those kind of become kind of dull. So the setup for this game is that this group of students, like college, I don't know, like they're of all ages. So I guess it'd be like what university level Australia type thing. But they crash, their bus crashes outside this town called Little Hope. And then because they're like, well, what do we do? They of course they've been walking around and they try and find a way out. They can't. This impenetrable fog seems to be guiding them towards the town. Freaky things start happening. This little girl starts appearing. They find, witchcraft symbols that look like they're out of the Blair Witch showing up. And then all of a sudden these ghostly figures start appearing and kind of dragging them into the 1600s when the witch trials were happening in Little Hope. And the game kind of goes between the current day, the 1600s, and then there's also this third timeline at different points. And as you're walking around Little Hope, seeing freaky shit happening, you're constantly also kind of learning what happened to the town in the witch trials back in the day. And that's sort of the core setup. And of course, much like Man of Medan, you can start killing off characters fairly early in the game if you want to. If you want to try and kill people, or if you want to try and keep them alive, I know it's up to you. The key, or the head dude in this one is like I meant to blank on his name. What's his name? I've got it here somewhere. Will Poulter is your head face for this game. Man of Medan, it was Sean Ashmore. And Will Poulter is quite good in this game, but he's the only character I liked. I thought the other 4 characters were just like not interesting at all. Like I don't think there was a single one I could have been like, oh, that was okay. Whereas Man of Medan had like very tropey horror characters. There was still like the blonde girl and whatever. There was a couple of the jockey type dude, but those tropes work when they're having fun. And I feel like Man of Medan was just a bit more fun than this one. I think this game is out of the 2 most enjoyable if you're going to play it in the online co-op mode, where you can like sort of shit talk at the same time, or if you can play it if you've got people at your house, you can play it where you pass the controller around and you just play as different characters, because that will sort of elevate the kind of bad characters or the not super interesting characters. But I did give it a 6. I mean, it's all right. It takes like 4 to 5 hours to beat or whatever. So if you're after a horror experience, it's still decent. But that is Man of Medan. I'll also say that this did have my PlayStation 4 Pro sounding like a fucking jet engine. Again, I'm playing this. I'm just like, next gen, like 2 weeks. Let's go. So that's Man of Medan. All right. So next game I'll talk about is one of my favorite games of the year. Easily one of my favorite games of the year. So Ghostrunner. This is one of those rare. Sometimes I get excited for games and then I play them. I'm a bit disappointed to learn that they're not as good as I may have hoped they would be. Ghostrunner is one that I remember playing seeing the trailer for and going, that looks cool. Cyberpunk, first person ninja wall running and shit. Fuck yeah, I'm all about this. Played the demo that they put out at the start of the year or whatever that was, and I wrote a preview about it. And I remember really enjoying the demo and being like, damn, this game seems hard. Like the demo took me like half an hour to beat or whatever. Like, I'm in though. Playing the game, it was everything I wanted it to be and kind of more. I gave it a 9.5. The core setup for this game, or the way I guess to sell it to people, is that if you've ever played one of those many games at Devolver Digital publishers where they're one shot, one kills, it's kind of like that. So this is like Hotline Miami, Katana Zero, Ape Out, all of those sort of things where it's like you die in one hit, but enemies die in one hit, and it's as much about sort of having the quick reflexes to kill the things in the room as it is sort of solving the puzzle to overcome how you clear out the certain rooms. Because and this game just this game nearly feels like super next gen-y to a degree, especially because I was playing this on PC, so it actually and I'm playing at 60 and 2K and whatever else, and it looks super cyberpunky. It fucking plays super smooth, and the combat is just exhilarating the whole way through. So it starts relatively easy, where you'll enter a room and the goons you have to deal with are just, they kind of stand still, and they'll only sort of move, and they'll fire like a bullet at you, and you can wall run on whatever. You have like a grapple hook thing, you can pull yourself towards stuff in the air, and then you have a button that can slow down time. So you sort of be like, you're jumping towards an enemy, and the game's like, okay, now hold down shift, time slows, you'll see them fire the bullet, move out of the way, and then when you let go of shift, it sort of propels you forward, and you'll fucking go in and you cut them in half, and you're like, well, that feels awesome. Then the game slowly starts getting a little bit harder. They're like, okay, now the enemies in this room, a couple of them have shields on them, and you need the shield generators are strapped to the side of the walls. So then you need to run around the room, slice down the shield generators while dodging bullets and making sure you're not hit, then swoop back around and kill all the enemies. Then the game gets even harder further, because later in the game, it's like, okay, these dudes have machine guns. They're not so easy to dodge. You kind of have to wait for them to run out of rounds. Here's these other enemies that will literally leap halfway across the room and land on top of you and just kind of kill you in one hit. Here's these Metal Gear-like looking robots that will fire room-scale fucking blasts that you either have to slide under or wall run across and like super jump to get over. And then finally, here's fucking drones in the sky, but super cool. You can wall run, jump on top of the drone, stick your katana in it, ride it down across the room, land on top of 3 enemies, kill them, quickly jump off onto a wall. And when you're like doing these things in tandem, this game is like some of the most badass shit I've played in quite some time. Like, it is really fucking hard. I died well over 1,000 times by the time I beat the game, but it also it gives you that super great feeling of when you do beat a room, you always feel like you just did the coolest shit that you've probably done in some time. And not to mention the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack's definitely my favorite soundtrack of the year so far. It's super, like synthwave techno music, and when you're clearing a room and it kind of it kicks in, it's like and you just, it's got everything I kind of wanted it to be. And I think my only criticism is that, or 2 little criticisms, because I gave it 9.5, is that to break up the fights every now and then, you have these sort of puzzle / more levels where you're kind of just walking through this techno space where you get like sort of upgrades, and this is where they do like the story info dump, and some of it's just kind of boring where they only ever last like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, but like by the time I got towards the end of the game, I was like, I'm kind of growing a bit tired of these things. And then also the puzzle stuff wasn't super engaging, and then I thought nearly all of the boss fights were good, although the very last fight in the game was kind of the worst fight in the game, so it kind of left a little bit to be desired. It didn't ruin it for me, obviously, 9.5, but the other 2 boss fights, especially the second boss fight in the game, because I uploaded all the boss fights to our YouTube and put up an article on how to beat all the boss fights, and I've had like several people comment on the second boss fight, which is called Hell. It's this other cyber robot samurai person who you have to fight, and unlike the other boss fights, it doesn't give you any checkpoints, and you're kind of just in this room, and you have to like find your way to them, and then you have to like perfectly block all their katana strikes, and then you'll deal 1 strike of damage to them, and then they'll jump to somewhere else in the room and start like blasting this range attack at you, and you've got to perfectly dodge it all and do it in one go. But like it may take you like an hour. I saw people commenting on a YouTube video being like, I died like 200 times on this. But like when you do it, it only takes like 2 minutes to defeat the boss, but it just may take you like an hour, 2 hours of just like dying to get it. But no, I am definitely head over heels for this game, and even when I finished it, and I was like halfway through writing my review, I was like, I kind of want a break to refresh myself. I booted up the game and just started playing random levels again, just because it feels so good to play. Like the wall running to me feels just as good as like Titanfall wall running, which I guess up until this game, I would have said is the best wall running in games was Titanfall.
It's the best free movement.
Yeah,
from,
and I would say this is on the same sort of level, except for just with a katana instead of an assault rifle or what have you. It's good. Even the story, like it's kind of paint by numbers cyberpunk story where it's about a rebellion kind of striking up. It gets into some sort of atypical cyberpunk stuff about like people experimenting with their bodies and like free will over people in this sort of stuff, and they never really explain what happened. They're like, hey, an apocalyptic event happened, all of humanity now lives in this massive tower, and the key setup for the game is simply you awaken, don't remember anything, there's a voice in your head, you're at the bottom of the tower, you've got to kill the keymaster who lives on the top floor, who's like the ruling evil overlord of this group or whatever. But it's like whatever. The setup is climb the tower, kill people on the way, save the day, be the hero. Like the story is just there. It's fine. But obviously the key thing is the gameplay. And this is definitely going to be in my top 10 of the year. I see No World, which is definitely in my like top 3 at the moment. I don't know. Like super all about this game. Does this interest anyone else, or?
I just added it to my Steam wishlist. I'll get it eventually, probably next week.
Going for it.
See next week, but no, definitely it was already piqued my interest. I definitely started Classic Tier and seeing people playing it on Twitter and get a little bit of FOMO and be like, oh, the game looks really fun. I'm like, grab it.
I saw a lot of people on my Twitter last week. This is one of those things where I was thinking the other day as well. I'm like, I feel like it's been a while since I played a game and I like really got to a stage where I loved it so much that it's made me happy seeing other people enjoying it. Like, because especially because there was one of those cases where I wrote my review, score, and this is one of those ones that every now and then I still have that moment where I'm sitting there waiting for embargo and then it pops and I'm like, and I see like lots of other people giving glowing reviews. I'm like, oh, good. So I'm not just like up my ass about this game. Like, I'm glad. And then over the past week, seeing different people I follow on Twitter or mutuals on Twitter being like, oh man, I'm trying out Ghostrunner. Like, people weren't fucking around. This game is like the bees that like is great. I'm like, yeah, it's one of those cases where I've been like feeling happy seeing other people enjoying a thing that I like. So Ghostrunner. Everyone should play it. I would say not get turned off by the difficulty because like you die a lot, but at the same time,
does it get you back into action quickly?
Instant.
That's the thing. That's where death's okay. Where it's not a load screen every time you die. Like screens. If it's let's go back in.
There's not even a like you don't have to click continue or anything. It's like you died, pop you back. Like it literally takes like a second or less than a second.
So you won't be. I'm glad you won't be writing an article like this, like your Sekiro one about it.
Not for this. But the other thing is like there's always you don't have to beat like a whole level in one go. It's like you walk into a room, and that's what I'm saying. Like where it's a puzzle. So you figure out how to kill the enemies in that room. And then when you clear it, you walk to the next room. There's a checkpoint, and you have to figure out how to clear enemies in that room. So, like, it's kind of one step at a time.
Not
it doesn't
too punishing.
It's not too punishing. Like, it's not. Whereas the thing with Soulsborne games that a lot of people struggle with, like Sekiro included for myself, but even when I struggled to overcome for Bloodborne at first, which is that you can wander all the way down to a boss, die, and then you have to respawn all the way back at a checkpoint that's like 15 minutes away. You know, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, what the, like, super punishing, makes you feel like you're not achieving anything at some point. So, that's that. All right. And the third thing I wanted to go over is my thoughts on the Oculus Quest, Questy 2 so far. And,
Questy 2.
Questy 2.
Questy.
Love Questy. Firstly, I'll put this out of the way. Yes, I've seen the many news stories covering how Facebook is ruining Oculus. Yes, I do not like it. I'm hoping that all the bad press is eventually going to do some good, and they'll. I said I'm hoping. I can hope. As much as I don't like Facebook, I do like my Oculus headset, so it's kind of a weird dilemma. But also, I'm just completely. They're like, hey, don't delete Facebook because you'll delete Oculus games. I'm like, well, I guess I'm never deleting Facebook now. Like, unless that's changed, like that's fucked. Anyway, so Oculus Quest 2, it is. I've only played a couple games on it. Obviously, I played Beat Saber. That was the first thing I booted up because Beat Saber. I've played some Fit XR on it. I've played the Little Witch, which I reviewed, which I only gave what did I give it here? A fucking 5.5. And I've been playing Blair Witch today, and I'll have my review up before the episode goes live. So they're like the 4 things I played so far. Over, like, thoughts on the headset for like game stuff. It is lighter. It has a better screen. Like straight away when I booted up Beat Saber, because I'm like, here's a game I've played a lot of. Let's see if I can tell any differences. There is like better, what do you call it? Like when you hit the notes, there's better like visual effect of the explosions, like higher. I don't know if that's just enabled for this version. Like, because I booted it up on I quickly checked like on my other headset, and I'm like, that's not here, or like it's so tiny I can't even really tell. So there's definitely like you can see changes, and there's way less of the like the screen door effect with this one. Like there's a heavy screen door effect on like your PSVR. There's a heavy screen door effect on Oculus Quest headsets, but there's none to barely any on the Oculus Quest 2. So happy with that. And then my other big standout is just the weight factor, because the biggest critique I would have about the original Oculus Quest headset is how front heavy it is. And if you're playing that thing for like over an hour, it kind of just starts to hurt your neck or like front of a head. Like because it kind of drags it down. It was always so heavy because obviously it's a standalone headset, has a lot more technology built into the front end of that thing and whatever else. It's got 2 new Oculus Quest touch controls or whatever they call them. They're just a rework of the original Quest stuff, but I love those controllers. I think they're great. They work well. Got all the buttons there and what you need. So the stuff I played quickly. So Little Witch Academia VR. So this is a Netflix anime series I'd never heard of, but I was like, VR broom racing. That seems like it could be fun. And to a degree, it is. Like, it works well. You race around on a broom. It kind of has. It's like the annoying thing about this game is like the broom racing is fun, but they just don't have enough options to make it something I would highly suggest people jump into right now. So like it's supposed to have a multiplayer coming online play, which would add a lot of replayability to the game, but it's not there as of when I was writing a review. And also the other weird thing is that the game has 13 story levels, but it has no quick play. So when you beat the game, if you ever want to do some just mucking around broom racing, you have to click on any level, and that involves watching the cutscene prior and after any level that you want to play it. I'm like, well, what if I just want to fucking race a track? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you jump into sort of any racing game or whatever, there's always like a quick play or something. Like, you don't have to watch cutscenes for everything. So that was kind of annoying. I will say for this game though, broom racing, as I said, never watched the anime. Seems like it could be a fun anime. And you know, like the other wizarding franchise has been turned to shit lately.
You're banned. No,
I gotta watch it.
You've got too many other animes that you need to watch before you watch it. So don't even suggest that you're gonna look into.
It's on the list, just at the bottom. So like,
it's that there's other things going to get moved to that list before that as well.
You know, Attack on Titan's first, obviously. So it's fine.
Damn straight. Damn straight.
And then today I've been playing Blair Witch, and I'll have my review up by the time this goes up. But I'm not sure what I'll give it just yet. But I think so. I played Blair Witch on Xbox or PC. I don't remember where I played it. One or the other. When it came out last year, and it was an alright like survival horror, whatever you want to call it, sort of that amnesia / Oculus type of gameplay where you walk around, there's spooky stuff happening. You have a camcorder, you have a light, you got to solve some puzzles and whatnot. Like I like the Blair Witch franchise, so I enjoyed it for what it was. I think this Oculus edition is just way more engaging for that type of gameplay where you're just walking around an area and like you're just having spooky things happen to you. So I'm playing the game with fucking headphones on, and it's absolutely giving me the heebie-jeebies. And the thing is, and I knew it was, because it scared me playing it normally, you know, like sitting in front of a TV, not in VR. And the monsters in it scared me, because there's times where you're just walking around in the forest, and even just playing it normally with headphones on, I'd hear rustling in the trees next to me, or like at times you'll walk around, and if you ever watched the Blair Witch movies, you know shit's going to happen when it goes quiet. So in the movies, they'll completely cut out like the sound effects of forests or crickets, or like it'll just go completely like dead silence. And that's when you know shit's going to happen. And that happens in the game. And the first time that happened to me when I was playing in VR, I was like, oh, fuck this shit. But when the monsters eventually show up, you have this dog in the game, which is the best part of playing it in VR, by the way. You have this dog in the game, and it sort of barks in the direction the monsters are, and you got to shine this light in them to make them like to try and keep them at bay. But I remember the first time that was happening, I feel like my fucking Apple Watch, like I looked at my heart rate after it had fucking gone up a fair fucking chunk. So no, it's if you like scary games, playing this on the Oculus is quite good. And also it looks pretty good. Like obviously it's a downgrade because I've played the original. It doesn't look anywhere as near as good as it did when I was playing it on my Xbox or PC, wherever the fuck I played it. Obviously, I wouldn't have expected it to. However, I think like what the important things look good, which is like you pick up a phone, you can dial things. You can pick up your phone in the game, and because it's set in the 90s, you can actually play Snake on your phone. So hold like a phone in front of you and just use the little controller to like move the snake around. I'm like, that's
so
completely
what
weird,
percentage of your playtime has been playing Snake?
I only played it like 5 minutes until I died, but I only just did it because I was like, this is fun. But it also kind of feels weird to standing in the middle of a creepy forest just playing Snake on your Nokia 5800 or whatever. You can also pet the dog in the game. The dog looks quite good, and that's the most important part. You can just, at any point in time, you can call your dog over and just get down and give him a pat. So like if you want to do it to break up the scares, or after you've just been scared silly and you're like, come here, give me a pet. And then another thing that works really well in the VR for this game was they've removed some of the puzzles, which I think is a bad move. Like some of the puzzles from the original game that I remember being fun and enjoyable puzzles, they've removed, I think, to kind of just streamline the experience and not make it super like finicky for like having to move your hands to do certain things. But they've kept the main puzzles, which involved you get a camcorder like an hour into the game. You just find a camcorder because Blair Witch. And what happens is that you have to rewind or fast forward the tapes. And like, for instance, there's a part in the game where there's like a tree that's fallen over on top of a car, but you can find a tape where it shows someone recording the tree falling on the car. And if you rewind the tape, the tree actually moves up in real life. In the real-time game. And obviously that's a cool little puzzle mechanic that they had in the original game, but when you're playing it in VR, you're holding, like, just the fact they're holding the camcorder in front of you with the little screen popped out and you're rewinding it, fast forwarding it, and then you're seeing all this stuff happen in front of you. It's just a lot more engaging. It's one of those things about VR, I guess. And my one sort of big critique I have for this is just a VR thing in general, but it also just screams that they were trying to get this out in time for this October and didn't have the time to fix this up, is that all of the cutscenes from the original game are still in it. However, they're just presented as 2D things that happen in front of you. But I hate any VR game that does this because it takes you out of the experience, especially if you're walking around in a forest, you're engaged in the VR experience, and then all of a sudden it cuts to a loading screen and then you're just watching a 2D cutscene play out in front of you, and it's like, okay, well, that was sort of annoying, but nonetheless, Blair Witch is pretty good. It's called, I think the official title is Blair Witch Oculus Edition or something like that. It's only on Oculus at the moment. I don't know if they'll bring it to anything else. I don't know, but I'm enjoying it. So Oculus Quest 2 is great. I think it's a great VR headset if anyone wants it. And again, I still can't believe that they've improved it and cut the price by like fucking $200. I don't know. It's magic. I'm constantly shocked at how technology moves and gets cheaper at the same time. It's really great. All right, let's get into some news stories. Firstly, I want to run down everything that happened in this Nintendo, as they've been doing this whole year, because they don't like announcing when they're doing Nintendo Directs anymore. They just randomly drop one, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. or something during the week. Their last mini partner showcase. There was some cool stuff here. There was not some whatever stuff. But so, running down. Bravely Default 2, a game that I care about and would like to play, has been moved to February now. They showed off a new trailer. They explained that they're taking all the feedback on board from the demo they put out study. So that's cool. February. Get excited. Story Seasons Pioneers of Olive Town was announced. I've never played the Stories of Seasons game, but I know people that play these games were excited for this. So that's cool for them. It's coming out March 23rd, 2021. The only thing that stood out to me in this trailer was the cows are fucking huge, and I don't know what's happening.
Huge and adorable.
Yeah, they're kind of cute, but they're weird looking. I don't know.
And they're free roaming. That's the other thing.
Yeah, free roaming.
They're not like in like a set pen or anything.
No.
They just walk it wherever they want.
Next gen
Just
level
trampling
cows.
over everything.
Surviving the Aftermatch, which came out earlier in the year on Steam for early access, is coming to Nintendo Switch at some point next year. They had a trailer for Immortals Phoenix the Rising. It's coming to Switch. The one thing I liked about this trailer is, like, it wasn't anything mind-blowing if you've watched any Immortals trailers, but it was clearly Switch footage, and I appreciated that they didn't try and, like, hide the fact that it just...
It looks worse.
It looks worse. But I mean, it's a big open-world game. Like... If you care, if you only have a Switch, here's what it looks like, here's what
it's
plays.
kind of amusing considering that it's like heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild. Yeah. So it's like, okay, it's interesting to see one of these games be done on a format that isn't, have Breath of the Wild, but then be like, oh, but by the way, somebody else made a Breath of the Wild game, but it can't even run that well on your system. Yeah, it's interesting.
Then there's Bakugan Champions of Vestroia. I can't believe Bakugan's still franchise, but there you go. Griffland's Nintendo Switch edition's coming, so this is another fucking card roguelike. I can't, but there's so many. Tropico 6 is coming to Nintendo Switch on November 6th if you want to play Tropico on the go. These next two I found quite interesting, but they're not coming to Australia. So Hitman 3 was announced it'll be coming to Nintendo Switch. Is a cloud version. And then they also announced that Control
cloud version
is out. Yeah, no, I fucking look at my catch this. Control released the day this direct happened, not in Australia, and that is also a cloud version. And from all reports I've seen from people who actually live like in America where they can play this, apparently it works very well. Like it also apparently looks quite well. And weirdly, I saw a report saying that the Control cloud version on Nintendo Switch actually has ray tracing.
Well, apparently I've read reports that, so when you load it up, apparently you get options to either run it in performance mode or run it in like visuals mode or quality mode. And the quality mode is where the ray tracing is engaged. I've read reports of it being like the ray tracing or like the really good quality visuals mode is if you were running a really nice PC through through Ash's current TV. So through like a 720p screen, and it looked like
I still think it's impressive
there.
That
it's impressive that they can do it.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what there is no mention anywhere what infrastructure this stuff runs on.
I don't know.
So,
I tried to.
We don't know.
Google that,
They haven't announced it. What infrastructure is being used to stream either of these games? So I'm interested to find that out because clearly it's not Nintendo.
No,
I don't think it's a Nintendo.
No, apparently there's
thing.
a company that's doing it, and there was people found leaks on the store about Resident Evil 3 by the same company. So apparently the
didn't they do a Resident Evil 7 thing on the Switch?
That was a straight up
just in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the same company, and that was like at the start of the year. So I don't know, it's weird. And then also the fact that it's just not in Australia full stop. Although people I posted now,
we wouldn't be able to run.
No, but you can sign up for a Nintendo America account. You can try and download it, as several Australian people have.
I mean,
and it runs like shit.
Yeah,
no matter how good the internet is.
Apparently, there is a 5-minute trial to start off with, and then to test how well it runs on your device, and then you have to purchase the game.
Well,
but
the comparison is our top end is generally 100 megabits a second. The top end in a lot of places in America is 800 to 900 megabits a second. It's like that's the most outlandish kind of thing about it is just what the difference is. So whenever it's like, it's not in Australia, I'm like, fuck, of course it's not. There's no way our freaking copper industry crappy version of the NBN is not going to support this shit. No. It just isn't going to work.
Yeah, so it's disappointing that obviously Australia doesn't get to Nintendo Switch players in Australia kind of miss out on these things. I still think it's impressive and cool tech that Nintendo is showcasing the ability they can bring these games, and also I think importantly it kind of shows that even like I've got a story about we'll talk about more rumors about Nintendo Switch Pro Edition a bit later, but like it kind of shows that even without that using cloud technology, at least in certain parts of the world, they're able to bring these games that the Nintendo Switch probably couldn't run as well, like just on the machine, which is quite interesting. You know,
it excites me for if this company, whoever they are, is doing it to this well and is getting these kind of results for, it excites me to see like xCloud and everything to do with that kind of come into effect with Microsoft.
Well, everyone says that's great in America, but
yes, yeah, everybody in America says it's awesome. Like, there's but yeah, it's interesting to see that kind of that technology come to fruition. Whether it takes, however long it takes to get here, it's kind of out of the developers' hands in many ways. It's more up to the Australian government. The silver lining there is they have backflipped and they have started putting fiber in places again. But yeah, it's not great.
So then they had No More Heroes 3, a little trailer for that also announced that No More Heroes 1 plus No More Heroes 2 are now on Nintendo Switch. So that's cool because those games are wacky, ridiculous, fun. I think everything I've seen so far is people say they play quite well on the Switch, so that's good to hear. And then the last two things was Part-Time UFO. I don't know why this was like the second last thing. I don't know if this is a Nintendo.
Yeah, it's a weird one, but it looked pretty solid.
It did look pretty fun.
It looked like it would be fun, yeah. But
yeah, so it's a game where you play as a cute little UFO. It's got cute little music, and you sort of have to stack objects to solve stacking object puzzles. I don't know. You can play it in co-op with other people. I don't know. It obviously just has that cute sort of Nintendo happy-go-lucky vibe to it. Yeah, it'd be alright. I would have checked it out by now, I think, if it'd been cheap. It's $15, I think, or something like that. And I was like, no, like maybe not. So
it's weird that they said, we've got 2 final things to show you.
Yeah. And this is one of them.
This is one of them.
Yeah.
It's like, why not say one last thing and show this before?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then, of course, the last thing was Horror Warriors Age of Calamity. Got a really cool trailer, and then they announced that there is a demo up for people to play. I booted up for like 10 minutes that night, and then I fell asleep, and I haven't had a chance to go back and play it again, but I do want to go back and play it because I was enjoying my quick burst before I fucking fell asleep because it was ridiculous o'clock at that point. But
the thing I saw people reacting to the most was you get to play as the legendary beasts, apparently, whatever that means.
Yeah, so the legend, so the heroes in Breath of the Wild, obviously. So the cool thing about Age of Calamity is it's a Breath of the Wild prequel that takes place 100 years before Breath of the Wild, when you have the basically the great fight, the war that happened that you hear about in Breath of the Wild with what are they called? The Heroes of Hyrule, I think is what they're officially called.
The Great Heroes of Hyrule, or something like that. Yeah,
which
where pretty much Hyrule's versions of the Power Rangers.
Basically, yeah. And they're explored in the expansions for Breath of the Wild. They did explore more about them, sort of had like flashback scenes or whatever. So they're in this game because it's all about the Great War. So you got Link, you got Zelda, you got the Great Heroes, whatever they're officially titled, I can't remember. But it looks really cool. It looks stunning. It looks very pretty game. I think obviously using the art style to great effect. Massive monsters, cool battles. I've never played a Dynasty Warriors game before because it never really interested me. I remember Hyrule Warriors, the first one. I was like, yeah, that's cool crossover of ideas, but like still, like, is it just simply smashing around things? Like, what is the grab for this? I feel like this one is the one I'm most interested in simply because I'm getting sort of more story or like a setup for why I'm supposed to care about the battles. You know what I mean? Like compared to just, hey, it's a mindless thing where you can play as Link and beat the shit out of a bunch of people for a while, which like I get people liked, but it wasn't enough of a setup for me. So this kind of looks like Lord of the Rings fucking 2, but for Breath of the Wild Zelda. So it looks really cool. And obviously it's the last big game as far as we're aware, unless they announce something out of left field that Nintendo has releasing in 2020. So yeah, that's cool.
Which it feels like for a year where we looked at the year at the start and we're kind of like, Animal Crossing's coming out for Switch, and what else does it have? I feel like they've done a reasonably good job at having consistent releases of stuff, just to be like, it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but at least they're still releasing.
Yeah. Well, they've always whipped stuff out of their ass at the last second, be it the like Super Mario stuff or like what have you. Like even No More Heroes 1 and 2 releasing, for instance, for a lot of people, that like if I had more time, I would be all about that because I've said before, like I'd love those games to come to Switch. Maybe next year I'll get around to playing them. But like even for a lot of people, those two games is like, well, that's that plus Age of Calamity. Cool. That's my Switch set for the holiday season, you know. So yeah, there's always something. Plus, you got the Pokemon expansion pass just came out. So, like, they've done a pretty good job, I think. It's just kind of.
Steve came out.
Steve did come out. That's true. Yeah, Steve came out for fucking.
So did his.
Fucking.
They had to nerf.
So did
Steve's
his meat. His meat came out.
So did his meat. Yeah, his meat was spilled all over the place.
Wow, we went there. Okay, so Kotaku writes next story, Halo Infinite loses another director. Master Chief has always been a pennant for bumping landings, but over the year he's mostly kept that confined to events inside games. Halo Infinite, however, has weathered a last-minute delay and now the loss of 2 directors en route to putting down wheels. According to a report from Bloomberg, Chris Lee, the 343's industry studio head who oversaw production of Halo Infinite, is now off the project. Saying, quote, I have stepped back from Infinite and I'm looking at future opportunities, Lee told Bloomberg. This apparently follows a post-delay leadership change-up in which, per Bloomberg's report, Lee was sidelined after Microsoft handed the keys to series veteran Joe Staten in August. In a statement, Microsoft said that Lee, quote, remains a Microsoft employee, but his time with Halo has come to an end. Kieran, how are you feeling about Halo at the moment after the director switches up and now someone leaving?
This doesn't stress me that much. Halo is in a weird place currently, but I feel this kind of feels like the changes that they made 4, 5, 6 months ago now, where they brought in the previous I believe it was the previous
the old director.
It was like I can't remember. The old director is from Bungie. They brought a couple.
I forgot. I just said.
Joe
Staten
from Bungie
in August.
Yes, Joe Staten. I feel like this is the kind of not to say in a rough way, but taking out the crap or kind of clearing out the garbage from that kind of. I don't know. It feels like this is they're kind of clearing house and been like, okay, we've got the basis of what we're working with now. Sorry, we don't need you anymore. We're parting ways with this person. We're going in a different direction. It does worry me because games in the past where directors have changed over, there can be elements of the game that feel very disconnected from the rest of the game when they leave stuff in. But at the same time, I have, especially for Halo, I feel like Xbox and Phil Spencer will not let this game come out unless they're kind of happy with it. Unless it is what they want it to be. And I feel like they're making the right moves at the moment. I'm interested to see if it comes out next year. And I wouldn't put it past them to delay this again.
They've never have another game. Fortunately, they've never gave it any other release date than 2021.
No. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, if they're aiming for a holiday season next year, they've got a year, they've got 12 months at least to kind of work on it. But if it feels like they're doing enough work on it that it's quite a large scale kind of change to bring it out to change whatever was wrong with it previously, I think there's time, but at the same time with Halo, I'm okay with it. I feel like take the time you need, make it right, like do the right thing, especially for the first generational Halo.
I think the other interesting thing about Halo at the moment is that Halo is still like the number one featured thing on the Xbox Series X boxes and everything. So it's like they were so set on that Halo being the first party title they were going to sell with Xboxes this generation, and maybe they were even printing these boxes, like months and months and months ago. I don't know how production works, but obviously these boxes were being made prior to the delay and everything, and they're just stuck with these boxes.
Finalized. They at least kind of finalized and signed off on the box art.
Yeah, and it's funny now that it's like, well, that's delayed, but it's still on the box that everyone's buying.
I think the thing is, I actually think it's not a positive, but it's a I don't want to say a good thing either, but it's a thing where when we look at Xbox's launch lineup, it's a sign of when we go, oh, this launch lineup not great. You get lots of games, but there's nothing kind of wow, and you're like, well, Halo was clearly supposed to be there. Like Halo was clearly supposed to be there. That hasn't come out to fruition, but this is where the console is going. So I guess I feel like if we didn't know Halo was supposed to be there, maybe a lot of people would have a very different kind of point of view of the Xbox launch lineup or what games are going to be available at launch, because it is kind of
Meh.
It is kind of meh. Like it's missing that kind of top quality, like upper crust game.
It's missing
kind of-
what are they called? First party exclusives.
Fucking explosions around Ash's face right now. I mean, it's true. It is true. Like as we talked about the other week, the Xbox lineup is. I'm excited to play old games and like check out whatever things, but they play stuff. But they literally
I'm excited
don't have
to play Assassin's Creed on it.
Yeah, they literally don't.
I'm excited to play Watch Dogs Legion on it.
Yeah,
but
you got any Xbox titles that you're excited to play on it?
Like very.
I mean, you could play either of those games on PS5.
Gears on me. Yeah, but I don't want to
play Gears Tactics. It's technically the first time it's appearing on a console.
Is Gears Tactics on?
It's only it was only on PC. It's launching.
Yeah, so it's coming out to consoles. Yeah.
I can play Gears Tactics. There's stuff. There is stuff I'll play. That there's a good chance I'll jump into Yakuza because it's like, oh, this is something different for it. But yeah, it's part of the reason why part of me is not that stressed about getting an Xbox just yet. Where it's like EB's like, hey, it's coming out 2020 at some point for you, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I think if Halo was coming out at launch, I probably would be scrambling to be like.
I think the other interesting point is though, like in their plans, in the world where Halo released on launch, what was their plans for? Like, okay, we're going to release Hellblade early 2021, maybe we're going to release this thing like another. What do they have in the pipeline? Like, like when's Forza coming, etc., etc. Like, how does Halo affect all those games? Maybe
we've got to remember the start of the PlayStation 4. They rested heavily on third-party games.
I think the PS4 and Xbox One launches were both pretty much the same. Like I don't think there's like they were.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying that as a negative, but like they're resting on third-party games. And then there was that period. It didn't happen with Xbox because of everything that happened with Xbox. But all of a sudden, there was that period with PlayStation where they hit their stride, where it was like every couple of months we now feel like we're getting an exclusive. We feel like we're getting something every 3 to 6 months.
PlayStation still had Killzone, Knack, and a couple of things. Yes. I think like there was actually game like
Drive Club and GTA Sport.
Yeah, so it's a case of where it's like I'm as an Xbox fan or as a game console fan, I'm okay with there not being anything at launch that well because it's like hopefully it gets to the point where we just start hitting a stride and we're regularly getting stuff coming through. And with Xbox, that's even better because fucking Game Pass.
Invest on the potential.
Yeah, I
will do actually.
I'm joking about the no first parties because I kind of deserve. But as I've said before, I don't think it really matters, and because as we've seen, people are still pre-ordering the console. People seem to not really care because they're quite happy to just play their Assassin's Creeds or Yakuzas or like a bunch of their back library titles. You got to have all the Xbox Game Pass titles and whatever else. So like it obviously their way of tackling this issue has worked. People don't really seem to care, and good for them. Whatever works, whatever keeps everyone happy. All right, next news story. Sorry,
wait. I'll just say on the Halo director thing. There's no way to know. It could either be really good because they're really close to it being fine and they're just finishing off the last finishing touches, and the director's moving on to some other developing a brand new project, or it's really bad and they've had to bring them in to completely fix everything. So
yes,
it's either one of those options or anything in between. So you can't read too much into it.
Best case scenario is it's down to a stage where they don't really need creatives heavily involved with the project anymore, and it's simply just a technical side, so all right, so VG247 writes, Assassin's Creed live action series is in the works at Netflix. Netflix has announced it's developing a live action series based on Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed franchise. The companies will also partner up for an animated and anime series based on the franchise as well, according to Variety. A showrunner for the live action series hasn't been pegged, but Ubisoft Film and Television's Jason Altman and Daniel Krenik will serve as executive producers. Quote, we're excited to partner with Ubisoft and bring to life the rich, multi-layered storytelling that Assassin's Creed is beloved for, said Peter Friedlander, VP of Original Series at Netflix. Continuing from its breathtaking historical world and massive global appeal as one of the best-selling video game franchises of all time, we're committed to carefully crafting epic and thrilling entertainment based on the distinct IP and provide a deeper dive for fans and our members around the world for its enjoyer. Other Ubisoft projects in the works at Netflix include an anime series of Splinter Cell as well, and it will be pegged by Derek Kolstad, writer of the John Wick films. There's also a Division film starring Jessica Chastain and Jake Gyllenhaal, and Beyond Good and Evil is getting its own feature film that'll air on Netflix as well. Most of that we previously covered, but it's easy to forget, of course. So, Assassin's Creed. How are we feeling about Assassin's Creed series, Kieran? All about that?
The thing is, what they have to nail, which is the thing they've struggled to nail with the movie, was the historical part of it needs to be just as actually, it just all needs to be interesting. Because the thing is,
you've described the TV show well. It needs to be interesting.
It needs to be but like the movie came out, and both the modern life character and the historical character were both bland as fucking cardboard. Like there was no real interestingness about them. There was no difference between the two of them. Like, I think my personal favorite character is still Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and the other one,
something like that,
and Revelations, and there's another one I think. But
was it called? No, wasn't it only 3? Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Revelations.
I thought there was another one
trilogy.
like Brotherhood, but it wasn't Brotherhood. I don't know. Ezio Trilogy. Whereas, yeah, I think where his character is really interesting. Desmond Mild was kind of as interesting as a wet bit of cardboard, but it was fine because you had Ezio there to kind of it needs that the historical piece or the modern day piece. One of the two needs to be extremely interesting and extremely kind of like almost detailed and well written, to the point where you have something to kind of care about and be interested in the show. If they pick a crappy time period or they don't write a historical character very well, I don't think it's going to do very well at all.
Ash, how do you feel about Assassin's Creed? Well, I guess the other key thing I forgot to set up here is, don't forget we're talking about live action, animated, and anime series. So, like, one could be good, one could be shit. I don't know. Ash, how do you feel?
Yeah, cautiously optimistic. Netflix has the best proven record with video game related content.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel be interesting to see how they actually tackle it. Is it just going to be based around one assassin for the entirety of his run, or is it going to be more of an anthology?
Well, surely, like, the live action would be one person, because that makes sense. Because people, especially for live action shows, if you want to bring in a new audience that doesn't, like, not just video game players, if you want to bring in like random people who have Netflix subscriptions, you need them to get attached to characters like it's just a normal show. So, like, you can make an Assassin's Creed series that's kind of like a sci-fi / Game of Thrones type scenario. I think if they meet in the middle of making it like a Game of Thrones epic in the like sort of historical things, but then also making the sci-fi current day like machine stuff interesting. I feel like that's what they need to meet in the middle of both worlds and make it both like super.
Do they do a direct adaptation of one of the games, or do they create a brand new character?
New character, because they've already established that within the games you can do that, and it's fine. Like they've already established that is a legit possibility, and it's okay to do that. It's not like
it's fine within the canon, but for a TV series, should they adapt one of the movies?
Well, you avoid fans being like, "You guys didn't do this right. You didn't make the character the way I had him in my video game." You avoid that by.
I don't think people will do that.
I think they will if they choose with several of the assassins. I think Ezio. I think Edward Cullen. Not Edward Cullen.
Jeez.
Jesus Christ. I
can only hope that Rob Pattinson comes back to play Assassin's Creed.
As a glowy vampire. And
as a sparkly assassin.
I think they do a new story because they can I think as much as like gamers love like Ezio and whatever else, I really don't think those characters are like super engaging to the degree they would transfer well to a live action, just solely story based medium. I think people fall in love with like Ezio and whatever, but a big degree of that is the fact that those games were super fun and you was having a lot of fun playing them, not just also like engaging in Ezio's story. Yeah.
And also think if they do something fun with the writing in terms of, say, for The Witcher, for instance, they had the first 5 episodes where you didn't know the timelines were all messed up. Like if they did something like that, I think that would make it even more interesting. Like even if they had like the opening episode or 2 just being no modern day stuff, just being historical. And that's all it was. And then it rips out of the historical nature and goes into the modern day stuff out at random and changes its pace a little bit. I think that would be really interesting to do.
Yeah. I think it's like if they have to have the real day stuff. I think they
do have to. Yes.
Or else it's not Assassin's Creed, because then you're just making a random historical you know what I mean? Like if people very easily dismiss the real day stuff, but without that, what is Assassin's Creed without the real day stuff? Yep. Yeah. I think as for adaptation of adapting like one of the game's characters or stories, I think I would prefer, if I had to pick, I would prefer to see like an anime adaptation of one of the game stories, and then the live action thing to be something new and fresh. Like, if I had to pick.
I would like if they were going to use a character in the animation, there's plenty of times that they can choose that have like nothing. They can feature those characters with it being a new story. Like there's large gaps in, say, for instance, Ezio's timeline. There's a massive gap between Brotherhood and Revelations. Like there's a massive gap in his timeline of
it's
here's
also
a story about that.
Sci-fi, so they can create reasons to have crossover with characters and whatever. Also, I think the reason when the film came out, they made a big deal saying that the reason that was its own story was they're like, this is part of the Assassin's Creed canon, and like it's all one big story or whatever, which obviously no one really cares about because the movie was pretty garbage and like nothing in that movie has any big sway on anything happening in the Assassin's Creed lore. But I guess if they want to continue that of saying like everything is connected and it's all one building Assassin's Creed universe, then I'll have to make new characters, new story. But I'm pretty keen. I think there's lots of cool things they can do with the franchise. But I saw a lot of people online very tepid about the idea of an Assassin's Creed thing. I'm not really sure why. Like I'm like Netflix is doing it. Like they're kind of doing well so far.
I think there was a Michael Fassbender film that people didn't receive very well. So
yeah, but I mean, I guess. All right, so. Kotaku had an interesting story up, I thought. So Alex Walker writes, over 760,000 Australians discovered video games because of COVID-19, survey says. So they write, the figures come courtesy of Dell's gaming brand Alienware, which found that 1 in 10 Australians started playing video games as a result of the forced coronavirus restrictions. The survey, which was conducted by Lonergan Research, that's what I'm going with, in late June and weighted to the latest ABS data of the Australian population, also found that 3/4 of those surveyed found gaming was a positive influence while social distancing. Other interesting tidbits from the survey included 42% of those surveyed said gaming helped them keep their mind active, 44% said those that playing games, Jesus Christ, 44% of those playing games use games to stay connected with friends and family. 39% said that they played games during lockdown, do so with real-life friends. 59% of those said that they helped with their overall well-being. 9% of those surveys started playing video games because of coronavirus lockdown restrictions, and that's what equates to around 762,000 plus Australians taking up video game percentage. 29% said they have scheduled regular gaming sessions to stay connected with friends and family. So there's some like feel-good video gaming stats, I guess, for everyone. Like in a year where things are down or whatever else. I guess it's good to hear people have discovered the power of video games and the fact that there's a social side to it of just being able to, I guess, get on a game, shit talk for a while, go to a raid and fucking WoW, or shoot things in a first-person shooter, or play Uno or on your Nintendo Switch with friends or whatever.
Everybody playing Among Us and lying to each other. Lying to all the people you can't see in person, straight to their face.
That's also a thing that could be happening.
Also, COVID for the Nintendo Switch, it really kind of closed off a large part of its serious fan base, is those who go to rooftop parties together to play Mario Kart. It's really not the situation for those. So it's really good that we've had the ability to bounce back. But on a more serious note, I think it's interesting to see what things we can take positives out of this terrible year. And see what things have strived, and I think it's really interesting that video games did strive under this pressure, and more people did start picking it up and turning to it, or using it as an outlet or an escape from the currency. And it'll be interesting to see how those trends carry over once life eventually kind of gets back to normal for people.
Good pets.
Good work.
Your pets.
For audio listeners, Kieran just patted the dog.
I patted the dog after my wholesome comment, and it really wrapped up the whole thing.
Worked in very well. Ash, do you have any thoughts on?
No, I mean it's good. I think we've seen it's interesting. Obviously, new people coming in right before new consoles comes out is quite amusing to a certain degree. But yeah, I'd be also interested to see how many is kids getting into it because parents have given them a console to keep themselves from going crazy. Yeah.
Okay, so last story. So Nintendo, I know previously was like, there's no way they're going to make a Nintendo Switch Pro, but then there was a lot of more stories that came out that seemed to add a lot of, what's the word? I'm fucking blanking on the word. Power to it.
Credence.
Credence. Thank you. Right. So Nintendo Life has number one. Latest rumor about a Nintendo Switch Pro comes from Economic Daily News and suggests that an upgraded version of Nintendo's all-conquering hybrid console could come with a mini LED display courtesy of Taiwanese panel manufacturer Innolux Corporation. The report suggests that Nintendo has recently visited Innolux with the insinuation that it may be parting company with its current system screen. Oh, so it's switching screen suppliers, right? Okay. Sharpen JDI and using mini LED display technology from Innolux in an upgraded Switch rumored to arrive early next year. For anyone unfamiliar with mini LED technology, no, this doesn't mean that a new Switch will incorporate some tiny little screen into an upgraded Joy-Con or anything zany like that. Rather, the main screen on the new console would use mini LED technology as opposed to the backlit 720p LCD screen in the current models. Still not sure what mini LED is? Well, it's probably best described as a hybrid of current backlit LCD screens with OLED-style local illumination. Each pixel in the OLED screen emits its own light and can be turned on or off individually, whereas LCD screens rely on illumination from backlights, which can result in light spill and dark areas of the screen that appear grey rather than black, etc., etc., etc. Contrary to traditional LCD backlights, mini LED screens provide a much more local field of backlighting to illuminate the pixels on screen more precisely, improving screen contrast and potentially battery life. There's less waste or lighting spill as light is only delivered on the pixels it needs to. Apple is reportedly adopting this technology for its device as a cost-effective way of improving its range of screens without going down the more expensive OLED or micro LED route. So although this isn't like a mind-blowing story, I thought it was worth bringing up because I think this just adds more credence to the whole Switch Pro thing, because other than like when you read the big blowout stories where it's like, oh, 4K screens, like blah, 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 this, when you read this like report, Nintendo visited company thinking about switching for a better, higher quality screen that could also be cost effective, like, that seems like a real thing a company would probably be doing if they were thinking about upgrading their model of hardware. With this though, it had me thinking, like, do we still think, because the rumors are still that this thing could come out next year, do we still think a Nintendo Switch Pro could come out next year, given that 2020 has been a year of COVID, and obviously if Nintendo had any plans to bring this out in 2021, surely all of COVID would have delayed like any potential Pro Switch or
I don't think it will have delayed it that much. Especially in terms of Japan. Japan has been reasonably well positioned for most of COVID. They came out of quarantine fully, like a lot earlier than everybody else has. So I guess in terms of that, they're still well positioned for 2021. It'll just be interesting, the specs of the device, and just what the device is fully going to be capable of, and what it being a Pro actually means, or how Nintendo adopts that and uses that, because it's not like how PlayStation 4 Pro or the Xbox freaking Series X, not Series X, that's the new one coming, the Xbox One X, that's the one.
It does get confusing.
Shitty naming conventions. Once those came out, we knew that the developers were going to be using those optimized settings and using those features to the most that they can. I'd be interested to know how much Nintendo is going to take advantage of there being pros in the wild, or if it's going to be typical Nintendo and they're just going to be like, nah, we're still doing this for our normal version of this console.
Ash, do you have any thoughts on a Pro Switch?
Probably will be something next year. I feel like, it would make sense if we're to believe Breath of the Wild 2 comes out next year. They release it with a better version of the Switch, even if it's just smaller stuff, or
I guess the other thing I have, the question I guess with a follow-up Switch model is, so if this report's to believe they're looking into screens to make sure that there's an upgrade for the handheld version, but then I'm like, the tech involved to make the docked version better would involve the dock itself, but like, I think the thing is, I was worried that if Nintendo did a follow-up for the Switch, they would kind of forget why people like the Switch, which is the fact that it is a hybrid console. But every time I hear reports,
everybody forgot about it being a handheld.
Well, no, I mean,
they've been stuck in their homes for the last year.
That's true. But I mean, there's lots of people that only ever play their Switch handheld, and there's lots of people that you hear about who only play their Switch docked. So I think for some people, they're like, well, it's a console. Some other people, they're like, it's a handheld. But I was scared that Nintendo would forget the reason the console is so successful is because, they've been able to get lots of great games on it, but also I think the hybrid factor and people being able to play it however, wherever they want is super important. So I was afraid they would double down on like making it too much of a handheld or focusing too much on the docked mode. Or
I always marvel, and I've always have about the Switch being the fact that you can just be playing it on your TV and literally pick it up and just start walking away and playing it, still carrying it on. Like that hasn't worn off of me at all, where I think that's really awesome and really like a really solid positive about the console in general.
Yeah, and was one of those things where when they announced it, you were like, there's no way that's actually how it works in real life. And then that's how it actually works. So it was one of those things where like, oh, great technology. I just saw a random story pop up. I don't know how relevant this is, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because I just read it and I was like, that's interesting. So not super gaming related, but a report coming out just now that Sony has entered into final negotiations to acquire US anime streaming service Crunchyroll. The deal could catapult the Japanese icon into a global battle with the likes of Netflix. Sony could end up spending more than 100 billion yen, 957 million, on the US streamer, gaining its 70 million subscribers. There you go.
That'd be really interesting.
That would be quite
See
interesting.
how that affects that.
Imagine if Crunchyroll was only available on
Sony devices, PS5.
On Sony PS5.
And Sony
not available
TVs.
on any Xboxes.
Yeah, but then
doubt that
Microsoft
would
be
happen.
like, Microsoft would just be like, all right, we're going to go purchase Anime Lab. Fuck you guys.
Sony recently obtained the exclusive right to negotiate for Crunchyroll. I missed that news. So there you go. That's interesting. 1 million pages to go. So they're chucking around money for that. See what they're doing in the video game space and find out, I guess. Okay, so there's only one other game to talk about for this week, and it's all in the court of Ashley. Watch Dogs Legion. You've been excited all year. You said it was your number one most anticipated game, I think, right? Coming into the year.
Going into the year, yeah.
How much have you put in? How's it faring so far?
Yeah, I'm like 4 or 5 hours in, I think I played today. It's pretty solid. I feel like it is going to play better when I get my PS5. It definitely feels like Watch Dogs, if you played any of the previous two games. It plays very similar. hacking and moving different things and doing stealth stuff and taking out people. Well, if you play like me, you're taking people out one by one, trying not to be caught and not get into a huge firefight. Yeah, it's enjoyable. It's just some like UI and different mission structures and that kind of stuff that's kind of annoying. My biggest gripe is obviously the big thing is you've got all these new characters that you can
you can play anyone.
Anybody. You can play anybody. And there is a way to recruit everybody. They've each got all their own missions, everybody's got their own names, they've all got their own different little stats about what they've been doing and all their histories and that kind of stuff. It's just a bit of a struggle to switch between them, I feel like. I wish it was like seamless or more seamless, or even to the degree Grand Theft Auto 5 had, where sure, it would take you a second to load, but it wasn't a loading screen you were looking at. You were zooming out and then going over to some other person.
Oh, so it's GTA 5ing it.
Yeah, if it was like that, it would be better. You have to go through 2-3 menus to get to switching over to whoever you want to be. It would also be great if you could see where everybody was on the map. So then I can, instead of like fast traveling somewhere, I can just pick whoever the person is who's closest to that mission point that I want to go be. You know? But no, to see where each individual person is, you have to click on each individual person and then bring up the map with that individual person. So that's frustrating. Also, all the missions don't show up on the map, which is crazy. You have to select which mission you want, and then the point comes up on the map. So that's a weird choice as well. But yeah, it does feel a little dated. Now that I think about it, I haven't played like a city-based
open world game
since maybe Watch Dogs 2. Oh, Spider-Man, I guess. Spider-Man's kind of different though, because you're
barely
nothing with like cars and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, something in which you drive and that kind of thing, which is very different. I mean, London looks beautiful. I haven't been there, so I don't know how super accurate it is. But I mean, I lost one of you have the option, obviously, to turn on permadeath for your characters.
I would. I'm going to. It sounds fun.
I did. I was using one of those special. I used one of those special characters, you know, that you unlock, that they give you as part of the pass. It's super special in that. And she subsequently died on top of Buckingham Palace trying to undo all this propaganda stuff by a drone.
How'd they die?
I tried to quickly cut out of the game, but I didn't cut out in time.
How'd they die? You just said they was
cut out of the game.
To close the
what
game.
was the point of turning the setting on if you're going to cheat the system? Oh no, a special one! Quick, pull out the plug! Pull out the plug!
Yeah.
I still said how they died. You're like, they're up there trying to get rid of propaganda, and then they just died.
Yeah. There was a drone. Like
a drone
combat
attacked you or something. Okay.
Yeah. So I died on top of Buckingham Palace.
Rip.
But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I think like it's just scratching a good itch. Like, you have to undo a certain amount of tasks before you open up a certain amount of the boroughs of London. I don't know if that's actually a thing or not, but
is it, Kieran?
And then you can unlock.
Is that thing, Kieran? Are the boroughs a real thing?
Yeah.
Even in England?
Boroughs are the real thing. I don't know how Kieran's going to feel about this game, because the accents in this game are wild.
They're wild, are they, mate? Like, have you been mugged off yet by a cabbie?
Yeah, listen, cuz.
Oi, bruv, what you doing in my alley street, bruv? I'll fuck you up. I'll mess you up, son.
That is what the majority of the characters sound like.
Will, that bird is fit as. She is so fit. Fuck yeah. There's it's no, but boroughs are like so say in London there's like Chelsea and Fulham and like where actually for you just think of where football team names are if they're a London based team, that's a borough.
But it's like Westminster and
Westminster.
Like
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, none of them super for me, but yeah. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's super. It is enjoyable. There is like an auto drive system. So what I've been doing is I've set a checkpoint, just auto drive, just go on my phone for a couple of minutes while they quickly drive over. It's great.
Does the not having an established main character kind of ruin or affect the plot of the game at all?
Not that I've seen so far. It's like more of a team-based kind of thing.
Okay.
Like, so the couple of cutscenes have included for like the team. You get a selection of the couple of the characters you've recruited involved and having their own says and different things. There is like one like head character, that you never play as. It's like the NPC who's had to hide because the game opens up with obviously London being attacked and DedSec being framed. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, but I feel like, once I play it on my PS5, I'd be like, no. I'm playing it on PS4 again.
Do you... one of the comments I have heard is that some of the characters just aren't different enough. Like, you start getting characters with very kind of similar abilities and similar aspects.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I walked down one street, there was like 3 dancers right after one or the other. Like, a good 10 meters apart. So it's not like there were a group of dancers, like, coming together.
Maybe they were all going to a dance class. Maybe they were all... It
could have been. But if that's just their one skill, their one attribute...
Well, maybe there is like, what were those things called? A flash mob. Maybe there was a flash mob being organised down the street.
There could have been.
And these dancers are in incognito. They're going to the flash mob.
Occupied London, there's going to be a flash mob.
Damn straight. Back in old Piccadilly. In old Piccadilly, there was a flash mob,
Yeah. I don't think it's like super diverse. There's obviously a fair bit of overlap. Like, guess what? This old lady, she's slow. She can't run fast.
She's slow.
Yeah. And apparently some people have flatulence, and that will cause them to be noticed by enemies.
That's amazing. That's so good.
Yeah.
That's part of the challenge.
Yeah. That and hiccups. They're the 2 big things that are bad for stealth. But yeah. I mean, yeah, it's interesting that I've picked up an amateur hitman and a professional hitman. I got a construction worker, but I got him killed as well. And then I got
he wasn't important enough for you though to try and stop the game from.
I can get a bunch. Right? I can get another bunch. I can get another construction worker. They're all over the city. That was unfortunate. I didn't know if I could like sneak up on the turret. I didn't know the turret could do a full 360, so...
Oh, you didn't know the mechanics of the turret. Oh.
Yeah, so he got mowed down pretty quick. But yeah.
Do you reckon you're just gonna keep playing it, or are you disliking it so much on current gen that you'd rather just wait?
I feel like I'll probably force myself to keep playing, purely because I know I desperately want to play Miles Morales when I get my PS5.
Okay. Yeah.
But then I can always just jump back in. Like, I'm sure there'll be stuff to still unlock.
Yeah.
And then I can keep recruiting people and see how quickly that loads and that kind of stuff. So
I'll be interested to see if a lot of your like issues with switching characters is changed on next gen version.
But even that, maybe if those things that I said they're available to do on next gen because it's much easier to have that information, data go across the hard drive or whatever.
Yeah. This is one of those cases where it's kind of good that you've played it on this because then you can play it on and we'll have like a good point of like what difference
good point of reference.
Good point of reference. Yeah. All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of Arcade Couch. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter by heading to explosionhour.com/Twitter. You can let us know what you thought of Watch Dogs or anything else by emailing mail@explosionhour.com with the subject line Arcade Couch, or by heading to our Discord explosionhour.com/Discord and come chat to us there. Next week, it's happening. I mean, that's it. Next week, it's happening.
It's consoles Eve.
It's consoles incoming next week. Like we won't have them yet.
But I mean, it's going to be weird. It's a weird one. Like, well, the weird thing is that obviously
so close.
We'll be recording. We'll be recording next week's episode, like probably like Friday, Saturday, or something like that. But it will release on Monday, which is like the day prior, right?
Xbox the day prior to Xbox, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like we'll be recording like 4 days prior to Xbox, but it'll be releasing a day. Anyway, nonetheless, we'll see you next week. It's all happening. Only 1 week to go. Get excited. Boy. Hey, Don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.